right, can I say a few words before we begin?
Sure.
So, I went home yesterday and I got to look over everything that was presented, the health insurance, the salary offer, some of the language, and really I was saddened, appalled, disgusted to see that under the current offers that BPS put on the table, 1,105 members of our bargaining union, which is slightly over 4,000, would either see a loss in pay or maybe a couple $100 in raises. That's what it stands. And I started thinking about that, and I said to myself, how can Dr. Mullins think that this was acceptable? How could Mark Mullins, who started as a teacher in Brevard County, came up through the ranks, administrator, area superintendent, and then eventually our school district superintendent. How could Dr. Mullins think that this was okay? Thought back, realized, when he was a teacher, he had it good. He had our nice little step scale, and he would get a raise every year, and then BFT would fight for more on top of that. But now he's at a point where he thinks it's acceptable with 8% inflation, outrageous cost of housing and gas, and many other things in Brevard County, and this is what he's okay with proposing. Recently read an article that said Florida is the least affordable state to live in the United States. So this is not a cost of living issue where Florida is cheap to live anymore. Then I thought about Misty Belford, our school chair, who's campaigning as a pro-teacher candidate, who's campaigned on that 2 other times. How does Misty Belford think this was okay to pass across the table? A reduction in pay for our teachers. How does Misty Belford think that's okay? I thought about Mr. Susan, our former BFT building rep. How does Matt Susan think this was okay, that our teachers would be seeing a reduction in pay? I thought about Jennifer Jenkins, former BFT member. How does Jennifer Jenkins think this is okay, that our teachers will see a reduction in pay? Thought about Katie Campbell. Katie was a former teacher. She is always touting that she is all for teachers. How does Katie Campbell think that this reduction is okay? How does Cheryl McDougall, someone who was a former union member in a school system, think it was okay to pass an offer where our teachers see a reduction in pay? I'm disheartened by that because I want to believe that all these folks care about us, care about the teachers in the school that have been struggling for years dealing with COVID at this point, unrealistic expectations, unruly students, unruly parents. And this is where we are. So I hope today we can start changing things around. That those folks that sit up there, our school board members and superintendent, reconsidered some of the things that we passed. Our health insurance proposal that was reasonable, that was meeting the premium increases you guys saw were needed on the employee end. Our salary offer, which we haven't really had a significant raise in a few years now, most of us, or many of us, I should say. So I hope today we start over and we start being more realistic with what the district is offering. And I'm going to keep saying it. Right now, there are job opportunities all over this district. The boss needs us more than we need the boss. And my teachers who are responding to my emails, that's the message they're sending. I love teaching. I've given my life to this, but there comes a point where I'm going to walk away from this, and I'm there. And if this doesn't go right, I'm going.
So let me say some things to that. Not yours, any employee in any organization is not facing anything different than the organization itself. Everybody has increase in expenses. Every contract that's coming in, every person that we work with, every gallon of gas that we put in transportation, every morsel of food that we purchase, everything is going up. Employees in any organizations are not the only people that are facing increasing prices all across the nation. Our board, I think I've tried to do a really good job to express the sentiment of our board for appreciation for all of the employees and teachers at the top of the list. You are 100% correct in that we can't do what we do with our mission of our organization without our teachers. You are the life and blood of our organization. I know that you sit in budget presentations. I know you have an opportunity to meet with finance people. I would love for you to explain where you think our board is going to find some money. You asked yesterday some questions about some unassigned dollars, and I have answers for you, and I'm going to share the answers.
Well, Dr. Green, I'm not going to doubt that you guys are facing inflationary costs too. I would note that you received an additional $42 million from the state this year to help with those inflationary costs. You have unassigned fund balance to deal with those inflationary costs. And while the sentiment is nice from the superintendent and school board, I would tell Dr. Mark Mullins, Misty Belford, Matt Susan, Jennifer Jenkins, Cheryl McDougall, and Katie Campbell, sentiment doesn't pay the bills.
I understand that, nor does it with us. Mr. Savage yesterday asked about the unassigned category of fund balance that he was reading from the Department of Education's website. I could have responded a little bit yesterday, but I was unclear as to where he was finding that information, and I didn't want to answer a question that he wasn't asking because I wasn't sure where he was looking on the website. I believe we know where he was looking. The Department of Education has definitions for how governmental agencies are supposed to identify their funds. They have categories such as non-spendable fund balance, restricted fund balance, committed fund balance, assigned fund balance, and unassigned fund balance. It is how the Department of Education requires governmental entities to lay out their funds. The unassigned definition from their book of guidance is the portion of fund balance that is the residual classification for the general fund. This balance represents amounts that have not been assigned to other funds and that have not been restricted, committed, or assigned for specific purposes. For other governmental funds, if the residual is still negative after eliminating assigned fund balances, the negative residual amount should be classified as unassigned fund balance. So of our unassigned balances, these are the assignments that we are expected to use the money for, and on June 30th is a snapshot of the picture, which would be a total that Mr. Savage was mentioning yesterday, but once they start paying what they are assigned to pay, it goes down to $19 million. So what is included in the unassigned fund balance that he is seeing on the DOE's website? Encumbrances, things that we have already encumbered for payment but haven't yet paid. Additional carry-forwards such as our funding for ACE and SAC and AVID and facility use and many of the carry-forwards that we have. Our medical insurance paid from the fund balance, FEFP reserve, transfer to workers' compensation, additional medical insurance commitment that we made. We funded media assistance out of FY21 for an additional year than what we were expecting to carry them. We have new and lapsed recurring fund, and we have non-recurring lapse. If you take all of those pots of money, it leaves the board contingency with $19,880,000, not the $42 million that Mr. Savage was mentioning yesterday. Our board, if you believe there's additional money that is not part of the contingency required by the state, I believe we've sat down and had those opportunities for conversation. We have, and you mentioned yesterday, bond rating. We have a financial fund ratio of 9.28%. The state average is 10%, and we are below that. We have neighboring districts that have fund ratios of 15 and 20%. I don't believe that our board is carrying forth money that is not needed for its intended purpose, which is the contingency that the state requires us to keep. I say again, no one is intentionally saying we're not going to pay our teachers. We're not going to do it. We don't think they deserve it. That is not what anyone is saying. We are looking at a realistic financial picture, which I believe that we have been incredibly transparent in sharing with all of our employees. And it is where it is. It's not something that is an intentional act that someone is trying to prohibit any of our employees from getting raises. That's not the purpose of it.
While I appreciate you bringing additional information, I'm going to have to point out several things here. First of all, I got to go back to the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that Florida ranks 48th in average teacher salary, and Brevard County is $1,000 behind that average pay. Meanwhile, we have the second most experienced workforce of any district. So the school board, Dr. Mark Mullins, Misty Belford, Cheryl McDougall, Katie Campbell, Matt Susan, Jennifer Jenkins have made the decision not to work on that issue yet again. This has been going on for a long time, where the superintendent and the school board have not made it a priority. They are letting us be the lowest paid teachers in the nation. That's just a fact. So I want to start there. These are board priorities. Now, what you've alluded to is the district is using really bad accounting practices and questionable accounting practices. If this is true, what you're saying, for instance, the medical insurance paid from the fund balance, the FEFP reserve, those should be assigned. You're choosing to say it's unassigned and then say it's unassigned assigned. That doesn't make sense. It should be in the assigned category. So what you're pointing to are really poor accounting practices. I will say that what you are not saying when you say the district has 9.28 fund balance ratio, by state statute, the fund balance is only needed to be at 3%. So you are over 6% of where you need to be with the fund balance ratio. So we're going to continue to disagree about that. And I would also point out this as well, right? If this money is going to all these different things, that money, the fund balance should be going down each year. It's not going down each year.
So I think what...
Anthony, can I read a definition before Dr. Ray gets started?
Yes.
So I just want to point out the definition that you guys didn't put on here. And that's the definition for an assigned fund balance. Same page. So when you don't know where I'm looking, it's in the red book from the Department of Education.
I did today.
Yeah. Okay.
I did it yesterday.
The portion assigned, the portion of a fund balance that is intended to be used for a specific purpose, but is neither restricted nor committed. This list really looks like assigned fund balance. You just sat here and told us how it's intended to be used for media assistance, how it's intended to be used for health insurance, how it's intended to be used for workman's comp. Additionally, I would like to point out the board contingency of $19 million is a board decision that's made up. Because when the state says you have to have a 3% reserve, the state says you can have 3% reserve in your assigned fund balance. Our unassigned fund balance are a combination. If we start talking about your assigned fund balance with the unassigned, we're way over $42 million. So let's be happy we're below the average, because we're happy that we're below the average on teacher salary too.
So I was asked about unassigned, and I can go into more depth about assigned and unassigned and what the state asks you to put in both, because I have those as well. But the point is, to Mr. Colucci's question, is it's bad accounting practices. I believe there have also been discussions with our financial team that they are interested in trying to categorize the monies that over the last 10 years, the practice has been to leave them in the unassigned category. So for example, on your list, workers' compensation. If we know every year we have a $2.9 million cost to workers' compensation, why over the last 10 years has it been left in the unassigned? Why don't we just take it and move it over to the assigned category? And I think the new group of people in financial services are interested in, the new group is interested in changing how we've done things over the last 10 years. We have talked about having, monthly or quarterly meetings with our meeting leaders to show in a more transparent way the monies and how that's all laid out. And we've talked about it as recently as yesterday when the questions continue to come, that when we sit down at the table, there should never be a question on what is available. And one of the ways to do that is have ongoing open meetings about what's happening so that everybody's question can be answered. So when we sit down to have a discussion about money, everybody knows what's there. Again, I don't believe that you believe that they're hiding or not using the money in the ways in which all of this was intended.
I didn't say that.
I
do believe that.
Well, then we ask you, and I asked yesterday, show us where that is, right? I did ask you that yesterday. If you believe that there's something that's out there that we can use, let us know what that is.
Okay, you can use the $19.9 million in board contingency, because as Kyle pointed out, that is a board policy, not a state requirement. Let me ask you this.
That wasn't what my question was, but I heard you say that. I have heard you say that.
We've answered the questions over and over again. Whether or not you're listening remains to be seen. But at this point, I would say Dr. Mullins, Misty Belford, Jennifer Jenkins, Matt Susan, Cheryl McDougall, Katie Campbell are not listening to the needs of our teachers. Along with this, I'm correct in you saying that there was $12.9 million in recurring funds this year.
Yes.
All right. Do you have an explanation of how you got to the $12.9 million in recurring funds, which would also potentially help us point to additional funding if we understood how you got to 12.9?
I'll bring that sheet back. I believe I have that all listed out. I believe it's been presented at board meetings. I'll have to pull that sheet.
And I'm going to say it again. Below the state average, $1,000, second most experienced workforce. All our districts are dealing with the same issues. How do they continually find a way to do it, and Brevard continually fails to do so? It is because it is not the true priority of our superintendent and our school board. The true priority of this school board and superintendent are to have as many programs available to our parents, which is great if it wasn't being paid for on the backs of our teachers. That's their priority. They don't have the heart to go out to our community and say, you know what, we can't afford CTE programs in every school. You know what, we can't afford art and music in every school. We can't afford whatever it is, the dozens and dozens of things that the school district offers, which are wonderful. Let me be clear. They are wonderful programs, fantastic, but it's too much when our teachers are $1,000 behind the state average in the 48th ranking state in the nation.
I have just one math question for so I see on this sheet 3.1 medical insurance paid from fund balance, and then another $5 million for additional medical insurance commitment. So I'm looking at that as 8.1, but I see on your contribution modeling only a commitment of 5.9.
So yesterday we tried to explain the difference between fiscal year and calendar year.
Okay.
And I had them all separated, and I will make a copy of that sheet I forgot to do that lays it all out.
So so in a calendar year, right, they both cover 365 days, right?
Yes, but the payments are different. So again, a fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th, and a calendar year is January 1 to December 31st. So when you're looking at fiscal year money, it's not going to equate to calendar year payments.
Gotcha. So is it your intention to commit in a 365-day period 5.9 million to our insurance, or 8.1 million? Whichever one you want to do. Like, I'm just saying, how much money in any 365-day period that you want to choose is going to flow from this particular entity, BPS, into our medical insurance?
Well, I can tell you over the last several years, it's been, what's the total over the last several years?
If you look at your sheet from yesterday, the total has been 41,000, million, excuse me, 41 million, 41.0 million. So that's the total. And again, as Dr. Green has indicated, it straddles fiscal year versus a calendar year.
I get that. I just want to know intention. Is the intention of BPS to commit $6 million or $8 million to our?
In which year?
Healthcare
We've
fund.
done 42
This
million.
upcoming, whatever your contribution model is.
This is this year.
Right.
And can I ask, in what time frame you've done 42 million?
It's on the sheet that we gave yesterday.
The sheet yesterday also includes school year or fiscal year 22-23 as well.
I just don't want a delta of $2.2 million to somehow disappear somewhere. I want to know what the commitment is, like what the real commitment to our health insurance is. Is it closer to 6 or closer to 8?
It's on
Real
the sheet
dollar.
from yesterday. Everything was on that sheet yesterday.
So it looks like it says 6.
Is that yesterday's sheet?
Yep. I mean, I'm looking off.
No. So yesterday's sheet, are you talking about fiscal year or school year?
I see 22 to 23, 6.1.
So half of that money is in calendar year January 1 of 22 to December 31 of 22. The other half of it starts January 23. Look at the $7 million, $7.7 million of recurring funds from 21 to 22. Half of that is from January 1st of 21 to December 31st of 21, and the other half is from January 1st of 22 to December 31st of 22. So again, it's over the course since the 1920 school year, it's been a total of $41 million that have been committed by the board into the insurance fund. And if we don't fix the insurance fund, I mean, look at where that money, I mean, that's board money.
No, I agree. That's why I want to know whether it's closer to 6 or 8. Because if it's closer to 6, then that means we got $2 million to spend. If it's closer to 8, then we're worse off.
It
than
will
we thought.
all, we're worse off than you presented yesterday. We're 13 in the hole this year and an additional 5 in the hole next year for a total of $18 million we're in the hole. We're trying to fix part of it this year, not all 13 million. We're trying to fix part of that this year and part of it next year.
Except that you didn't reduce what the employees are responsible to fix that. You just reduced what the board was responsible to fix that. So whereas we asked for a multi-year plan, you rejected that, but you gave yourself a multi-year plan to pay your portion. That is inherently unfair. I'm also going to request that we see a new projection of the health insurance accounting for COVID costs, because we know that the COVID costs are refundable using our ARP grant.
I have a question. I have lots of questions, but I'm just gonna ask one. I see on this sheet you gave us fund media assistance for fiscal year 2021, 1.7 million. Did media specialists have media assistance for the 2021-2022 school year?
Yes, they were cut after 21.
So this school year that just ended, they had media assistance?
Then it was the first half of the year. that
No,
they had.
no, Dr. Green.
Not that they had the media assistants, that they had to pay for the cost of them. They carried them one additional year. They carried them one additional year on salary than what they had anticipated doing, and they paid it out of FY '21.
Okay,
So from January to May of 21, media assistance cost $1.7 million.
That's what I'm reading. I don't have the figures in front of me. That's what I'm reading, that what we've identified for the state.
so what you just explained to everybody is that if you guys have the same amount and you're unassigned, that's $1.7 million that you're not on the hook for going forward. So although you try to say that unassigned is assigned, that's $1.7 million that no longer you're using from the fund balance.
I will get a clearer picture of media assistance in FY '21.
Dr. Green, while you're getting that information, can you also please get all the dates that are assigned to the numbers on here? Like, because obviously if we've got fund media assistance for fiscal year 2021, and we know that there were no media assistants for media specialists in the school year 2021-2022, I would like to know what dates this other money was assigned to, and if there's also a possibility that some of this money does not need to be budgeted going forward.
We're not talking about budgeting going forward. We're talking about this year's income, or this year's
So
unassigned
you're
balances.
holding $19.8 million, and I feel like I appreciate that our finance team is finally interested in making this more clear for not only the employees of Brevard Public Schools, but the community of Brevard, because as taxpayers, as employees, we all deserve that. So what I'm saying is it's clear by looking at this that there's money, $1.7 million. We are in June of 2022, and we're talking about money that these employees have already received, went out and spent on gas or whatever. So what I'm asking for is, this is a list, but it's clear that there's stuff on this list that probably has already been paid for, and now we're just holding money in case we have to pay for it again.
No, I don't think that's the intent.
That's what it looks like the intent is.
I think the intent is to cover the cost of it.
Right, but what I'm saying is that we already know that the cost for the media assistance has already been, that's done and gone. We've gone a whole school year with our media specialists, which arguably, if we had media specialists in here, they would probably ask us to spend $1.7 million on getting their media assistance back, because that's the way that is. But I'm just saying, at this point, there's money here that is being held for a rainy day. You can't convince me or the public or BPS employees, after seeing that media assistance on there for fiscal year 21, that there isn't other money here that isn't tied up anywhere except for sitting in an extra savings account that the board doesn't need to have.
Okay, ready to move on to comp time?
Sure, unless you have a response to our salary proposal, since you started with salary.
You started with salary.
You say I have some opening remarks, and you went all about salary.
Can we shift to comp time and PD?
Sure.
Um,
So let me give you some answers of questions that you had yesterday. Yesterday you talked about state assessments and district assessments. I met with the Reading and Learning people, and they are developing Brevard Public Schools' calendar of assessments next Tuesday. What they have right now, because it is not 100% clear from the state, all of the requirements that are being placed on the progress monitoring, they have the 3 testing windows, and that is all that we have. The state has increased the amount of assessments and the amount of assessment days from getting away from solely the FSA. They are testing, and I'm sure you know this, they're testing kindergarten through 10th grade, ELA and math. Each of those progress monitoring, all 3 of those sessions will be a maximum for the general education student, a maximum of 4 days, so 3 times a year. Now, the state testing windows are, a month long, but we are developing a calendar. Next week, the group is meeting to develop the calendar, which will hone in what our requirements and responsibilities will look like at each of the building levels, how that will be spread out, what support they will need, and I will be better able to answer the question about, what days we're talking about after that schedule has been developed.
When you said 4 days, were you referring to per assessment?
Maximum of 4 days per each of the 3 sessions. Again, there's 3 windows. There's one in the fall, one in the winter, and one in the spring. Each of those windows, there will be K through 10 testing in both ELA and math, and the maximum time allotted to each of those is 4 days. ELA and math combined.
I'm not understanding. I'm going to say that. So are you saying Monday through Thursday there would be a math assessment and the teachers wouldn't be allowed to use their comp time
I don't
Monday
have
through
the
Thursday,
schedule.
and then when the second
That's not what I'm
progress
saying.
Oh,
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we don't have a calendar, so I can't be that specific.
well,
What I can say.
my confusion is just with this progress monitoring. I know that there are 3 tests. Beginning of the year, mid-year,
Middle year, and
end year, and then it's math and language arts.
I'm a 3rd grader. 3 times, I'm gonna have a maximum of 4 days utilized on testing. It depends on the length of the test. Maximum of 4 days, 3rd grade, times 3. But again, without the schedule, I can't say that 3rd grade is gonna be 4 days. It's a maximum, depending on the length of the time allotted for this. So maybe 3rd grade is more than 4th grade is more than 2nd grade, I don't know.
So it's a
They
maximum
haven't
of
developed.
12 days.
Maximum of 12.
And that is just for the state assessment,
That is for the progress monitoring.
not for the district assessment.
I will have a schedule after next week. I can't be more, that's what they've heard from the state.
Did we have any other outstanding information?
No.
No, everybody. So we're passing across a proposal. It started new. It was passed too many times back and forth, so you won't see the previous proposals. And as I look at this counter proposal, that's, it's my keyboard agenda. Can't use that against me. When I look at the counter proposal, I look at it and I go, you know what? This is what negotiations are all about. There's some things in here that our teachers want. There's some things in here that management wants. It is a give and take. Dr. Green, you and I have been very good at coming to agreement on these difficult issues with contract language where we can see each other's perspectives and compromise and agree. I'm asking you to give really serious consideration to this counter proposal. I know that if we do not come to an agreement on this language, we are going to end up in arbitration next year. Because we believe that teachers can use comp time on PD days. You vehemently disagree with that. That only leads to one thing. If we can work our way through this, we avoid that. We have clarity. Our teachers have clarity. Our principals have clarity. You get some of the things that you want. We get some of the things that we want. So I'll just take you through the proposal now that you all have it in your hands. We've left in there our jointly agreed upon presentation. We've left 40 hours of comp time usage. Crossed out that the 16 hours needs to be on non-student time. We've agreed to your request that comp time will not be used on PD days. We've made it clear that you can still use personal leave on PD days. You guys wanted to keep it at 8% of the staff or teachers are on personal leave. Can be a reason why teachers are denied comp time usage. We gotta move that some. We gotta move that some because 8% is 2 teachers on leave at a school and a principal can deny comp time. We've got to be able to use it. That is what started this whole proposal. I've added in there, comp time may be used in lieu of at least 1 day of sick leave each school year. I know that is a practice that is already occurring in many schools. I'd like to memorialize that in the contract. It will help teachers be able to use their sick leave, or their comp time. And I just want to talk about that one because I'm going to ask you not to make the argument that that's going to hurt the district financially because our teachers will have more time to sell back at retirement. Because if that's the case, if that is the case that this leads to our teachers retiring from BPS, then we're successful. Both sides are successful. That means they've stuck with BPS for umpteen years. So I don't want to hear that argument because if you argue that, you're saying retention is not important to you. We've agreed to 8 early release days per semester being used for PD, which was one of your asks. We agreed to them not using the comp time on the early release PD days. We've added in a line about a first line supervisor will have the flexibility to approve work from home for all members of the bargaining unit. Now, this is another thing we know that's happening, right? There are principals, perhaps even some on your side of the table today, who say, okay, you guys are done for the day. I really don't know if these principals are doing this. I don't want to get you guys in trouble, by the way, but maybe, done for the day, students are gone, you can work from home. So we already know that's happening. We know that our principals more secure in their roles are doing things like that for our teachers. But I was thinking of the situation, let's say a principal comes from out of state, out of district, and we know that's happening. Maybe they want to let their teachers work from home at the end of the day, but they just saw the last principal removed from their position for whatever reason. Those new principals are not going to feel comfortable if this isn't in writing. So this is going to give them the opportunity to use their judgment. This is empowering our administrators to use their judgment as to when a teacher or member of the bargaining unit can work from home. So it's not every Friday, it's not an every day, it's a school culture. It empowers our principals and work site supervisors to make those decisions. Another situation that occurred, why we're putting this in, is because things just don't make sense. If you want the work to be done, our members of the bargaining unit need to be able to do the work. So I'm going to share a story that happened to Melissa down there at the end. Melissa is a tech integrator. Her whole job involves technology, helping our teachers incorporate technology into their classroom. She's obviously online a great deal of time. Well, as you all know, you've been losing internet down here rather frequently. I don't think it's the fault of the district. My understanding is because they're building that rail line and they keep cutting wires as they're building the line. But it's been happening frequently. So they lose their internet. Melissa's trying to do her work. It's like, I can't do my work without the internet. We've all experienced that, right? It is very frustrating. You got things to do, you want to get them done, you can't get them done because there's no internet. So she is sitting here and says, can I go work from home? I have the internet at home. I can accomplish my task for Brevard Public Schools in my own house. And she was denied that ability to do so. That makes no sense. So rather than accomplish the goals of this district, she had to sit in this building and twiddle her thumbs because she could not do her work without the internet. So these are the common sense provisions that we need in our contract to empower our administrators to make the decisions that best meet the needs of the district, as well as allow our teachers to work from home when they feel it's in their best interest. So I'm going to ask you to really seriously consider this whole proposal. It's been a lot of give and take. I don't love it all. You don't love it all. I get it, but that's what negotiations are about.
We will consider this proposal.
Okay.
Seriously. That's serious.
Okay, so did you guys want to pass a health insurance proposal?
I was hoping to have a response back from you for salary first.
Kyle, do you have that, or do I have it in a stack somewhere?
Did Melissa print it?
Yes.
I handed it to you. I handed it to you.
Okay.
She handed it away?
Oh. Kyle, did you forget to change the heading on it possibly?
That's possible.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay. Well, I do think that's probably bargaining in bad faith, putting your name on our proposal and saying, so.
Wait, my name, not Carol Green, right?
No,
From
yeah.
Brevard Public Schools.
Shift it back and forth.
Everybody change the heading. And the.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle so he can walk us through our salary proposal.
So what we tried to do was max the TISA out in the tiered
Kyle.
adjustment.
TSIA.
Whatever it is, I really don't care.
Teacher salary.
Alright, TSIA, whatever it is. We try to max it out in the tiered adjustment according to your belief that if we can spend all that money in the tiered adjustment, and then we added a performance raise. We still have some questions about that additional $6 million in the minimum base salary. We think there may be a way to adjust that some, however, this was your guys' calculator. And what that does in return is it ranges between a $2,700 raise and a new hire and a $3,600 raise for a teacher with 26 plus years of reoccurring money. Additionally, when you highlight the 6 to 10 years and you look at that 8-year teacher, I don't think everybody in that bracket will get that size of a raise. I think it really depends on where they are and where they line up with the minimum base salary.
Yeah, can you say that one more time, please?
For the examples that you guys highlighted, for a new hire, a 3-year, an 8-year, an 11-year, a 16-year, a 21-year, and a 37-year, in that bracket from 6 to 10 years, that raise comes up quite high. And I think some of that really is going to depend on where they currently are on the salary schedule, based on where they end up at, depending on the salary. Because what these are actually only one employee. When we're looking at this average salary at the bottom for total reoccurring, this is one actual employee out of that year gap. So it may not be a complete accurate reflection of every single employee in that year band. Would you agree with that, Rebecca?
That's correct, the examples are 6 specifically.
Yeah.
Employees.
And I just want to highlight, like, on your guys' salary proposal, a quarter of our teachers would end up losing money in January where insurance premiums kicked off, are not see a single dollar raise. And some of those teachers just saw, what, a $200 raise for a previous year, which is unacceptable.
Did you have any questions about that?
No questions?
Okay,
And then I'd just like to point out, so now we're using the same calculator you guys are using. We've already substantially moved, and I want to note that we've moved
I have a couple questions about your insurance proposal. You understand that if FSA cards are utilized, the law requires every benefit eligible employee to receive one, not just members of bargaining unit.
Yes, we understand.
So with 6,900 of our employees taking insurance that are benefits eligible, it's $6.9 million. So if you look at the annual impact to employees, I am reading.
Can you hang on 1 second? You don't have my line over there, do you?
This,
I know, you got my agenda over there.
I'm going to give it back. It's right here.
Okay.
So if I am an employee on the gold plan, in year 23, my premium, my cost of the premium is $1,697.02 for a monthly premium of $141.42.
Say that again, Dr. Gray? 'Cause I'm-
Are you asking, or?
That's a question. so in 2023, you have it here, 141.42 per month. 2020, it's in your very first line, the fourth column, 2023 employee contribution. So that's a monthly, $70 a paycheck, $141, they pay that gold.
No, not at all. That is your guys, this was your guys' sheet. That is what you guys projected that the rate needed to be. So all we did was take that rate, divide it up in 3, and it shows the annual increase. I guess what I could have done is added another box that shows the total rate every single year. But those are your numbers right there. That column that says projected 2023 total rate, that was what you brought us to the table.
Okay, I hear that.
So
what
our
I'm saying is we're starting there. You're starting there, so you're saying next year, this employee,
No,
no.
what I'm saying is we accept even though we have concerns about the projection, we accept it. You came to the table and said, we need to raise $9 million in health insurance. That's what BPS came to the table and did. BPS didn't come to the table and said, we need to raise $13 million. BPS came to the table and said, we need to raise $9 million in premiums. Do we agree on that so far? We said, we have concerns, but we're going to accept. This is bargaining, 2 sides work together, kind of not where you are on our salary proposal, but on insurance, we're going to accept your projection. So I left that column there because that's what you guys started with. What we're saying is take the employee rate. So the employee originally was a single employee, originally was gonna have to go up $314.94. That was your proposal. What we said was take that rate and split it out over 3 years. So the annual increase to the employee is split out over 3 years, but every year it goes up by a third, up by a third.
Oh, that's totally not how we were reading that.
Then if you were reading it your way, I don't know why you didn't accept it yesterday, because that would have been a great deal for you.
No, I still don't think it gets us where we want to be. Plus, there's some other things in there. There's additional one-time payment and a $6.9 million hit with FSA cards. So there's more to it than just.
Well, I mean, you guys have CARES Act, can clearly be used for FSA cards.
CARES Act is accounted for and budgeted.
All those grants can be amended.
So again, we were not reading this in that way. So again, if I just heard what you said, even though I can't read it in here, you're saying instead of $9 million in 2023, it's $3 million in 2023. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, because the board contribution goes in full effect. So instead of $9 million in 2023, it's gonna be $7 million of reoccurring and $2 million of one time. And then in 2024, it goes up to $8 million of the reoccurring because the teacher puts in another third, or all employees actually put in another third. The district cuts the one-time money in half to $1 million. And then in the third year, the district's one-time commitment goes away because all those employees are paying that $9 million. Because part of the problem with the insurance has been everybody's throwing in one-time money. And that money disappears because the expenses are still going up. So this was part of the way to meet the projection. You came to us, said there's a $9 million hole. This is how we get there in 3 years without making our families go bankrupt.
So let me ask you a question. If I give you a figure, do you want it in a paycheck, a month, or a year? Which is easiest for you?
A month.
Okay, a month. So right now, our employees,
Kyle, if you disagree for accounting purposes.
No, I don't care. I'm gonna
I-
understand. You can
the
count it by
reason why-
365 divided by 12. It don't
The
matter.
reason why I say a month is because that's how it's listed in the current contract.
so right now, a gold employee only,
It's probably paying 133.
okay, let's go with that.
I think that's what it is.
So in 23, you're suggesting that same employee, instead of 133,
It's gonna pay 141.
correct, And in '24, they're gonna pay $158.
No, they're gonna pay 150.
Well,
And
if
25,
they're gonna pay
they're
185.
gonna pay 158.
Well, okay, that's not how we're reading it. That's why I needed clarification, because
I
that
mean,
is not how we're reading it.
okay.
We're
So
reading
how
the
are you
employee, again, so if the annual increase is if the annual increase impact is 104 per month, no, 104 per year, divided by 12 months, that goes to 141, so we agree on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Next year, the annual impact is 209 per year, so if you add that to the 141, it's 158.
No, we're not adding it. We're
Well,
showing
that's
the
what, that's
projection.
where we were. We
Okay.
thought you were adding it.
Well, I
And
mean,
the
there's,
third year,
then I don't know why you didn't accept that, like, hands down. That would have
because it
been like,
doesn't so-
that would have been like 27 million for you. You guys still rejected it.
All right, so do you understand now, I mean, and just for those listening, essentially all it is we've divided what you said the premium increases need to be in 1 year. We're trying to make it manageable, realistic, and we've divided it into 3 years. But the first 2 years, the board is coming in with one-time money to make up for the difference that the employees will see in year 2 and then 3.
again, I have to say, and I guess it's year 2 that I'm confused about, and then year 3, but we have an $18 million issue over 2 years.
But Dr. Green.
We were trying not to put that much in year 1. It's my understanding from what you just explained, our year 1, which is $9 million, you just split out into 3 years, not even addressing the shortfall for next year, and so 9 million over 3 years instead of 18 over 2.
Well, okay, so 2 things. So this is literally what you did with the board's increase. Remember when you came back and reduced the amount from 13 to 9 million, you took it all off the employer side and not the employee side. So we're, in one respect, we're doing nothing, we're not doing anything that you're not doing. But I will remind you, this was an offer.
I got it.
This was an offer.
I got it. Okay.
Dr. Green, I just gotta follow up on 2 things. You guys brought 9 million to the table. We didn't make that number up. Second of all, so you're saying the intention was to raise premiums on families by $4,000 over 2 years?
Yes,
No.
they're saying they have a 2-year
No.
plan.
Well, no, that's what you said. You said we need 9 million this year, 9 million next year. Under your
Right.
model, 9 million this year was $2,000. 9 million next year is $2,000. So are we bringing a $4,000 raise or something? Because we haven't seen that yet.
Again, we were looking at 1 year, school year 23, and looking at all new monies that were available for employees. We said that several times yesterday. We were trying to resolve a 1-year situation and look at 24 in a different manner. We said that yesterday.
Dr.
So
Green,
let us go.
I just want to add this. I feel like this is a fair solution. I feel like we've offered the opportunity to get somewhere with this. And in full transparency, because we do talk to finances, we do talk to superintendents, school board members, the district's concern is not about having one-time money. The district's concern is about having recurring dollars. So we are asking for additional one-time money to plug these holes for those years so our employees can manage this massive increase, which, if it happens in 1 year, will result into less take-home pay for them. So the one-time money is there to help fill the gap for the 2 years. Oh, we get to eat today.
You what?
So we get to eat today because you have all the work to do.
I'm leaving you.
Okay, and we are scheduled to go until 2, so go accept those proposals quickly.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not working on the comp time, I'm not gonna come back with a comp time answer, there's too many people I have to talk to. We're gonna work on Monday.
Are they flexing their time?